Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back. So today I want to share with you my mod here with the Zohd Dart XL. Now I've managed to stick a Taro gimbal on there that's meant for quadcopters, and I've placed it inverted and also designed these really easy and simple 3D printed parts to enable you to install such thing. Now I did go ahead and test this. The first run wasn't as good as possible, and you'll get to see that in a bit. I think it's just having a bit too much weight here. Now let me plug it in and show you how this thing actually works. So there you go, I have that plugged in. I'm running the Matek F405 wing, the big one, not the F411 wing, I think. And I used servos, I think 5 and 6, and I just routed them directly in INAV to 2 channels on my transmitter here. Now, sorry for the camera angle, but I can't fit this shit anywhere. So what I do is now, for example, this one, I can use to set it up. And I have set up the mode on this to FPV mode. So this whole gimbal will work via either S-Bus or it'll work PWM. So I've set up PWM and routed them through the servo ports on the flight controller here. Now what's really cool also with the Firefly camera is it has a video output wire that you can buy separately, which I also have. So once you boot this up, I can actually switch between both cameras, which is what I was doing in the air. And now that shit's pretty scary. It takes a while to get used to because this is the first time I've ever done something like that. I have this set up into FPV mode. That means, you know, if I leave it here, it'll always look that way, you know, off towards where the nose of the plane is looking. So if I keep turning, it'll keep that correct position relative to the nose of the plane here. If I kept it in center, it'll always look in center and it'll balance everything out and you'll get to see that. So for example here, if we take a closer look, we're looking through the main camera, and with a switch we're looking through this camera now, which is a little bit difficult to show you, but you'll see that in the footage. I'll show you that in a bit. Can you see that? And then if I switch again, now I'm looking through the front camera, which is right in front of it. So that's what I was doing here. This was my first attempt and I didn't know how the hell it was gonna go. Now I knew I might crash on the first run ever, which is what really happened. And you'll get to see that also. Taking off was very difficult for it. And I've also found out a couple things. Now, every time I landed with the Zohd Dart XL, the motors were very, very toasty. So I'm planning on doing something with this. I saw, I forgot his name. It starts with Rags something. Channel. He's really good in RC airplane stuff. I'll watch his channel every now and then, and he was talking about this back here, and I'll show you that in a bit. Let me just restructure everything so we get a better look. Alright, so like this is a bit better. Let's just talk about some of the specs, and you know, I've been using this a lot more, so it's also going to be kind of like an update review video on the status of the Zohd Dart XL. Now luckily I have 2 of them. One of them I'm using for spare parts, and this is the main one, which has just been cracked all over. I mean, it's really fragile in the nose, like really fragile. I've broken the nose around, I would say 5 times already, and I have less than 20 flights I think in so far, but just some tape and some hot glue and I can always get it back to how it is. This is, you know, down here, this is something that you might run into one day, which like I did right here, is breaking the whole nose, and then that wood part will break, and I just used a 3D printed part here to just fix that up. So I'm using a 3300 milliamp battery, which I'm planning on setting up 6000 milliamp battery with lithium ion packs, which will be able to run this whole setup. Now let's talk about the gimbal setup here. Now I use the Taro gimbal. I'll have it linked down below. It's a really good gimbal actually, and you'll get to see that in a bit. However, you know, mounting it, I had to mount it invertedly, and I don't think I'm doing it right because I do run into a limit right on this side here. I'm pretty sure there's something I can do, take it apart, re-put it together, but I didn't go that far into it just yet because I don't know if it was gonna fly, and I didn't want to bother with doing all these modifications, and on the first launch I just break it. Now it did handle a crash quite remarkably. It was a really tough crash, and I was really surprised. It was the first time I ever launched this thing. It just immediately crashed. It just did a flip. I guess I threw it wrong, or I couldn't throw towards the wind, so that had a lot to do with it. I had to throw it with the wind, because if I threw towards the wind, then it would go towards the straight, and I don't trust it because this is the first time, so I'd rather break it than hit a car, basically. So, you know, and I really wanted to see this fly. Alright, so the way I've mounted the gimbal part here, as you can tell, is just 3D printed parts with the screws go in. And what this whole thing does is actually just sinks into the frame, the upper frame, and it goes in pretty deep. So all you need is like just a box cutter or something, and just go in deep and just cut a straight line. First, obviously mark where you have to cut, and then do that, and then just stick it right in. You can glue it. I have not glued it just yet because it's just friction was holding it the whole time, and it did a great job here. Now let's talk about some of the issues that I'm having with the Zohd Dart, which is the motor coming down really hot. But even on the 9-inch prop and a 10-inch prop. Now I feel like the 10-inch prop is a bit too much for it, but you know, yeah, it's still getting hot either way before even this mod. So it's really toasty hot, like you can't touch it hot. And I've already broken one motor. And how have I broken already one motor? With actually just putting the propellers on. I was putting the propellers on, the shaft broke. What used to happen to me with the older T motors, that's why I used to hate T motor. But yeah, now, good thing I had a replacement, so I just replaced the top shaft, which you can do that, but you can't buy that separately. So if that ever happens to you, you're going to end up having to buy a full brand new motor, unless you could find this adapter part that goes on the top here. Now, the motor, like I said, is getting pretty toasty. I'm using Gemfan 1045 props, might be over propping it. But again, I also watched this guy's channel, Rag to Nuts or something. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. I'll have his channel link down below. But he also mentioned something that is should have been pretty obvious actually, which is, as you can tell here, it's not getting a lot of air. All of this is being blocked off by this huge part right here. So I'm planning on designing, what he did is he used foam. I don't have foam, so he used foam to cut all this off and to keep it as thin as possible in the back in order to have more airflow come to the motor and the propeller, so it gives you more thrust, more efficiency, and everything of that nature. So I'm planning on doing that next, is redesigning the back part here, some 3D printed, really thin stuff that's just gonna go and keep this streamlined, the whole body streamlined here, instead of it being this far up. So it should just be up to right above here, right above these little screws, just like that. So you only have that much area covering the airflow for the propeller instead of about that much. So there's a huge difference, and yeah, that's something that I'm planning on doing today, hopefully. And but overall, you know, it's possible. You know, if I am able to put a gimbal on this, then I'm pretty sure someone who has more experience will be able to do that. Launching it was a pain. There's no way in hell I can launch this by myself. I had to use INAV auto launch, and if you need the settings, I could set those. I could put those on the bottom for you. But every time I threw it, this thing did a backflip. It was scary as shit, but it pulled right out. But the thing is, with INAV auto launch, it can be scary sometimes because, for example, I've burnt motors and I've burnt ESCs with it. And why is that? It's when you have it, you know, when you set up INAV auto launch and it's on 0% throttle, but you know it's already active. Once you launch it, it'll hit from 0 to like 80% throttle, and that, you know, if the ESC isn't on par or the motor is just unable to handle it, you will burn the shit out of both of them or one of them. And that's happened to me quite a lot with my S800 wing. So now what I do is I have it like just set up to, once I arm it, it goes to 25% throttle, I think, or something, or 10%. And then you could put it in the auto launch, lift up the throttle. You can hear it increase the throttle slightly. And then when you throw it, you have less chance of burning an ESC or a motor. That's what I'm doing now because, you know, through my ESC testing, I've seen shit like this happen before. So I knew what the issue was. And that's what I was able to fix there. Now, I mean, some people aren't as lucky or as fortunate as me that I have a lot of parts laying around everywhere. So yeah, just keep that in mind. That's really useful hint here, or tip here, that might be useful in the future for you. Now, the overall experience, it's good, but I'm just not building a lot of trust with it, especially with all of this on here. I need to figure out possibly a new motor. I'm going to replace the ESC with a DYS 70 amp ESC, which I received. I was going to do noise testing on, but I couldn't afford 4 of them. So I just got 1 of them, and then I just tried to do the noise testing, but I can't replicate how it is with 4 motors. So I just decided, you know, I'm just going to stick it on this one. It makes, it's going to be all around a lot better for this whole setup after I redesigned the back plate here, the back part right here. And, well, I'm going to leave it at that, guys. So far, what I can tell you is it's fragile. Also, you have to figure something out with the motor. Just be careful, keep feeling the motor, like fly for a minute or two, come down and then feel the motor. It does get pretty toasty, and on 10-inch props it'll pull around 20 amps or so, around 80% throttle, I think. It's not as efficient, but it's still pretty efficient. Launching this thing with a gimbal is a bit harder. Now there's another thing that I want to show you also, is this gimbal here. Now this one is the for bikers and stuff. I was planning on putting this, however, this is 100 grams heavier. Here, let me show it to you. This one's 100 grams heavier. It's rechargeable, but you can't control it in the air unless there's a way to do it, but I don't think there was a way to do it. I don't know if actually there is, to be honest. Maybe there might be. But no, I highly doubt there is, to be honest, because all it has is a micro USB output. But maybe we can hack this someday, but still there's no point. It's too heavy for such a build here. So I really, yeah, I wanted to be able to control everything and be able to have it light, and also it takes the battery straight from the battery here. I give it from the 9-volt, so I give the gimbal 9-volt battery from the 9-volt regulator, and the video is outputted through the Firefly camera with a special cable. Now the special cable is pretty cool. Yeah, obviously it's still in very unorganized, or it's not really clean setup just yet. It's because I'm still experimenting here. So this will give it power from the Firefly cable here. What will allow you to do is put battery voltage into it. It'll charge it. It'll give you the video output. And then you also have this white and black wire, which will allow you to set up on an RC control switch. For example, up would be to record the video. You bring it down in the middle, then it stops recording. You press down, it'll take a picture. So that's really nice. I don't have this configured yet. I just press record and I throw it in the air. But the overall stability of the gimbal and how this whole thing was flying, it was really nice. And again, these were just the first couple flights. I've never done such a thing before, so please excuse me if the footage isn't that great. I just really wanted to see a proof of concept to actually work, and to see it work and fly, which is really great. Next steps would be like a 6,000 milliamp lithium ion pack instead of lipos. Now for this switching board, many of you, I forgot to actually mention that. For the camera switcher, I've actually designed my own. I don't know if I'll release, if you guys want to purchase some. Like, I was thinking if I do this, I'll release some, you know, when you buy one, you get actually 2 of them for a really good price, like really cheap. They're right here. So I still haven't fully released them. What this does, it's using a Texas Instrument quad channel, 4-channel analog video switcher, but we're only using 2 channels. And the reason why I chose this IC was because it was one of the fastest, and it was really good in the air, especially smooth transitions. I just had constantly smooth transitions, and you'll see that. And it's really nice little board. It takes a AT Tiny and the Texas Instrument what is it called, analog switch here, and it's a half a stack. So I had built this in mind to go on quadcopters also, and I had one built that I never really got to fly to show you guys. But yeah, this is yeah, it's really simple. I'll probably have like a finished product if you guys are interested. I don't know if I'm gonna release this, but these are for myself, so that's why I made them. They're really nice. But yeah, that's what I'm using to switch between the 2 analog, between the front camera and the gimbal camera here. So that's what I was doing between this camera and the camera in the front here. And yeah, overall, well, I mean, that's it, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll leave you guys with the flight footage, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.